Right. Well, Correctional Services has suspended all visits to prisons in the country, as we know that this is an attempt to prevent COVID-19 from entering the prison system. But what about those who are arrested and sent to prison during this time? Let's discuss this now with Crispin Apiri. He's a spokesperson for the Correctional Services Minister. Crispin, good morning, and thanks so much for your time this morning. So yes, let's address that question. What about those who are being arrested and having to serve jail time, who are joining the prison population? What are the concerns there, and what are the precautions being taken around that?
Thank you, Yuveka. One of the precautions that are compulsory at this stage is a screening process. So they would be screened, and the screening implies that we would have to ensure that they have not come into contact with someone who is COVID-19 positive, or they have not traveled to high-risk countries as envisioned by the Department of Health and the regulations. So such things are determined. Thereafter, if they are also exhibiting symptoms of the COVID-19 virus, they would have to be quarantined in one of the special identified cells within the facility. Then thereafter, after a period of 14 days, they would then be removed from quarantine should they not test positive. If they test positive, there's then another chain of events that kicks in. They would then have to be isolated in a particular cell, which has also been identified in the facility. And in the event that these cells then do become minimal, there's then a process where there are other special cells that have been procured through the Department of Public Works outside of facilities to ensure that, well, not outside the facilities, but outside of the normal cell process to ensure that these individuals constantly remain isolated.
Okay, so if they are found to be to have COVID-19 or to test positive, your quarantine facilities are within the prison. You're not taking them outside of prison. Just for clarity on that.
Absolutely, that's correct.
All right, so, Crispin, we have to worry about the incubation period as well of this virus. Now, you say those who come in and are tested, and you take a travel history and a contact history and all of that, but would it not make sense, though, to quarantine those who are coming into the population anyway, because you don't know what could happen in the next 14 days after that?
Yes, and that is part of the procedure. Apologies if I had not explained that they
even if they don't test positive?
In any event, to ensure that if the symptoms are not exhibiting, we still do not put the current inmate population at risk.
All right. And what about warders? There has been some concern. We're seeing some comments on social media out there about prisoners who are concerned about their contact with warders who come in and out of the facility as well.
Yeah, the procedure for warders is twofold. The first is that if you are exhibiting any symptoms, you are then required to quarantine yourself immediately, and you're required to report that to the official concerned or the officials that you report to. And there has been incidents where warders have come into contact with people who have been overseas, and they've quarantined themselves, and they have all been negative at this stage. So we are monitoring those situations quite closely. But the second procedure is that if you find yourself as a warder dealing with individuals who may be suspected of COVID-19, we are working around the clock and getting daily reports on the state of equipment that is available for warders to ensure that if that eventuality does occur, we have the necessary equipment to keep them safe and to ensure that at least they are protected from contracting the virus in any possible way.
And what about other measures that you're taking? And you might be repeating, what you've had to say over the past couple of weeks, but just at the stage where we are now in the country, Crispin, just in terms of hygiene within prison, we're talking sanitizers, masks, gloves. Is there any need for that at the point? What provisions are being made for prisoners in that regard?
Let me just start with the masks. I think we must clarify that the position on masks is quite clear from the Minister of Health. If you are exhibiting symptoms, that is when you are required to wear a mask. But also, if you come into contact or deal with people who have the virus, then you are also then required to wear a mask. So we have procured masks to ensure that in the event that individuals who will be working with these people who have the virus, they would have that protective gear. And then also we have procured masks so that in the event that we have individuals who start showing symptoms, they then too are required to wear those masks. So far as ensuring how do we protect inmates from this virus, as we still stand right now, correctional facilities are not open to members of the public, and you would imagine that that is where the substantial risk would arise, where individuals from the public would possibly import the virus into correctional facilities. So that ban is still in existence. It will be reviewed after the 21-day lockdown, as will all the other regulations. We also have done a deep cleansing exercise in most of the facilities, in fact, if not all of the facilities, to ensure that we are clear that there is no possibility of the virus lingering around and waiting to be taken in by potential inmates and staff as well.
Have you had any confirmed cases within the prison system so far, Crispin?
As we speak currently, we don't have a confirmed case of COVID-19 in any correctional facility.
All right. And then you did mention, yes, keeping visitors away is one way that you're trying to keep prisoners protected as well. Are you still allowing packages to be brought in or to be sent to prisoners as well?
Packages,
letters, that kind of thing?
Those would be ordinarily be allowed in, but subject to a screening process as well. Of course, the inmates also cater for themselves. In most cells, in most correctional facilities, inmates actually cook for themselves. So insofar as them contracting the virus from an external provider, that is also quite limited as well.
Okay, so you're not allowing any packages in at the moment, or will they be sanitized if they do come through?
They would certainly have to be sanitized if they do come through.
All right, thanks very much for that. Correctional Services, Crispin Phiri, just clarifying the measures being taken to protect inmates, especially with new arrests, and of course those who might be breaking rules at the moment and they are exposing themselves and then getting arrested and being thrown into jail. We need to know what's happening there as well.